to this Tuesday, September 30th, a beautiful rainy day in downtown Cleveland at the Public Safety and Justice Affairs Committee. If you would call the roll, please.
Calling the roll, Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Mr. Greenspan. Here. Mr. Germana.
Here.
Mr. Harrison. Mr. Harrison is absent. Ms. Conwell.
Here.
There is a quorum.
Thank
Also
you.
like the record to reflect that council members Simon and Miller are in attendance.
Welcome everyone, and especially Ms. Simon and Mr. Miller. Can I have a motion to excuse Mr. Harrison?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Thank you. Is there public comment?
No, Mr. Chair, no one is signed in.
Okay. In your package, you have the minutes of September 16th. If they're in order, I'll accept the motion.
Move to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Will stand as is. 2014-0073.
Resolution number 2014-0073, a resolution authorizing a revenue-generating underlying agreement with City of Cleveland in the minimum amount of $2,365,658.95 per annum for operation of jail services for city prisoners, effective 6/1/2014, authorizing a lease in connection with said agreement in the amount not to exceed $1 per annum for use of the City Central Prison Unit, located at 1300 Ontario Street, 6th floor, Cleveland, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreement and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Thank you. Mr. Cologne, welcome.
Good afternoon. Norberto Colon, Deputy Chief of Staff. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, we don't have any new update other than the fact that we are still remain working with the law department on really addressing in particular two of the areas that were brought up here. The first one, we're still addressing what's being referred to as the made whole clause, as well as clarifying that this is an adult detention facility and that we will not take juveniles or just regular daily juveniles in our system. So we are working on clarifying those. There's also a third piece that we need to provide to you as well, and we're continuing to work on, and that's the updated transition plan, of which specifically you had asked for an update on what the 9-month transition financially is going to look like. So, Mr. Chairman, we're still working on both documents, and we do expect by the time that we have the next committee, we'll be able to address both of those.
Okay. Where exactly is the legislation regarding those two? Is that still in our House, or do we send it to Cleveland?
Mr. Chairman, it is currently still internal. The revisions to the agreement is, I assume what you're referring to, is still internal. We do expect to send it to Cleveland. Is aware they're coming. I did speak with them, and we expect to get that to them this week.
Okay. So you're within 2 weeks, we'll have that back, ready to go.
That's our intent, Mr.
Assuming
Chairman.
Cleveland's okay with our changes.
That's correct.
Okay, great. Questions?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chabana?
You brought up this issue of minors, and I don't understand. Would these minors be at our juvenile detention center?
Sure, Mr. Chairman and the councilman. Yeah, I mean, just simply put, I think what we were requested to make it clearer in the agreement that this agreement between us and the city of Cleveland is specifically for adults. And so it was expressed in the agreement, but I think we're going to make it clearer that it's only for adults or those minors that are bound over as adults.
I thought we were having a problem with some offenders that were minors and now are adults that are causing disruption at the juvenile detention center, and in those exceptions, we're putting them in our county jail.
Sure. I'm going to respond. Let the sheriff respond here.
Frank Bova, Cuyahoga County Sheriff, Chairman to Councilman. There was several problems over at the Juvenile Justice Center, and we've addressed that to the court system. They've been bound over to us. By law, that's the only way we can take juveniles. So we do have about 11 of the juveniles in our facility now.
So we'll be able to handle if these Cleveland residents are, we'll be able to accommodate it.
We will not take juveniles. Juveniles are still going to be handled the way Cleveland's been handling them and the suburbs have been handling them. Our facility is not for that. The only time we can take juveniles is if it's bound over through the court. So if a juvenile is arrested
Okay.
and taken through the juvenile justice system and there's a problem over there, then they can bind them over, but we don't take them directly.
Got it. The binded by the court is.
That's correct.
What corrects it. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cologne, I
Thank you.
think that's all we have. So we'll see you at the next meeting, hopefully with a full agreement so we can move it forward.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Very good. Could we take the prosecutor next? I know they have to get back. So, Mr. McGinty?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tim McGinney, Cuyahoga County Prosecutor. We appreciate it. We have a justice system reform meeting that we're hosting at 2. I'm sorry, I really appreciate your accommodating us and listening to our plea. We, as you all know, we have been working this DNA rape kit task force diligently and hard. It's been the most successful task force I've been involved in or seen in this county in the 42 years I've been here. We are projecting of the 4,000 neglected rape kits, 1,000 prosecutions minimal from those rape kits. A third will be serial rapists, perhaps higher. We think the actual number of serial rapists is much higher. We have motivated a lot of agencies. The cooperation has been tremendous from everybody. It is so good from BCI, from the Bureau of Criminal Investigation and the Attorney General DeWine's office, that we're getting more than we can handle. We're getting his increase in volume and production and efficiency has been such that we're having trouble keeping up with it. He's given us more DNA hits than we can keep track and adequately investigate. And there's a danger to it. Our investigators, we have 12, and from various agencies and our own, their average caseload is 86. And I'll give you an example of a great success and a great failure of our system here. I used a high-profile case that came out last week. We arrested the individual who attacked the woman jogger walker at 104th, West 104th and Lake Avenue. We put great focus on it, and we figured we could solve this case. And we put great resources into it, and we worked hard, and we did some DNA from that victim, and we identified him through signature that we thought he would be identical. He was the same attacker as a woman attacked on Warren Road in Lakewood, matching MO type information and description. And another robbery that took place on Marlowe Avenue in Lakewood. We thought it was the same individual. We did a lot of phone record search, and then we came up with enough information for while we were doing a DNA. We got DNA, touch DNA out of the pockets. It's kind of a new technology of the Lakewood victim and upper clothing of the Lakewood victim, and it all matched, and it was a DNA match, a DNA hit, a CODIS hit for this fellow. Had been in a penitentiary, just got out March 31st for a robbery, gunpoint robbery in Lakewood, and he also hit for 2,000 rape on May 9th on East Side in the 4th District. A attack in a home of an innocent woman, and so we know he's a serial rapist. So we immediately, with the help of the sheriff, Bova, and the marshal, Pete Elliott, we were able to get him with a lot of incriminating evidence, and his brother, another fellow lifelong career criminal, but we discovered now that we had received that May 19th, that hit from BCI, and we were trying to track him down. First, we have 10 or 12 steps we go through. We have to track the victim. The victim was out of state. She had moved a number of times. We had to find her, get her cooperation, get her on board, make sure it wasn't a consensual partner, go through all the usual steps so we don't ever have the wrong arrest. And then we started tracking him. He was elusive. His addresses were false, and we were in the process of trying to arrest him. Had we been able to arrest him sooner, those rapes may not have happened on August 30th in Lakewood or September 2nd in Cleveland. We have 500 of these fellows out here that we're looking for right now. 500 known hits because the Attorney General's office has been so efficient. We need additional help in investigators and counselors to do that. In victim advocacy, we have discovered that it's an essential part of our team, victim advocacy, and we need help there also. That these victims are in a crisis, and they need help. We need their help in order to obtain prosecutions and successful incarcerations of these rapists, and many times serial rapists, and all of them serial offenders. We have done an impact study of the first 100 or 200 individuals that we have charged here, and we've looked back into 20 years of their life. They all have long and degenerate records. None of them work, none of them pay tax. I say none. And they just commit crimes. DVs is their common, domestic violences, sell drugs, shoot one another, other antisocial activities, burglaries, and the like. They exist at great cost to the community. We did the study that we did, and it's preliminary, but it shows that the total economic impact of crime by this 1,000 group we projected, when we expect, and we're right on target at the 1,000 plus, it had a huge economic effect. We looked at the Department of Health and their cost estimates of each murder, each rape, each burglary. What does that cost the community? And they have various standards. You have to incarcerate them. The victims of murder have to, of course, they lose their income, the person murdered naturally, and their family loses the income that has an effect on the education and of their children and offspring. Each burglary costs some community confidence. It attacks the value of the community, the value of the home. Each rape has a traumatic effect, makes a person affects their workability, and they came up, the Institute of Health has come up with these crime value figures. And we are in the range of $1/3 to $500 million in a 20-year period that these habitual criminals cost. So there's a great economic cost to the community. So we want to do our best, and we seek help from this council in an unexpected success and failure on our parts to reach out and get these other 500 and the other 300 that have come beyond that into our grasp of the law and the justice as soon as possible. We need 8 additional investigators, and we need, on a temporary basis, if we have those, we have projected and we have given you the analysis, and we have further, more detailed analysis, should you desire it, that we can finish this project and get these people off the street at a much faster rate, finish the project totally in 2 years. At the rate we're going, it's going to take 4 years. In other words, they're going to still be out there committing crime against victims, and I consider those unnecessary crimes because we could stop it sooner, and that's what we want to do. We do not want other people attack like the Lake Avenue or Warren Road attack in Lakewood. We'd be happy to provide details, and we have a great amount of data here to present to you if you desire it.
Questions from the committee? Mr. Miller.
Of the 4,000 backlog rape kits, how many have been processed?
The number they're at the halfway mark. Is that correct, Mr. Bell? Is familiar with the figures? At BCI.
BCI's completed 1,500 cases right now of the 4,000 cases.
And how many new cases come in on an annual basis?
We have that figure.
The cases will all be completed by August of next year. So we know that we will
By
be
BCI.
receiving by BCI through the submission process. All of the Cleveland rape kits have been submitted now to BCI, and Attorney General DeWine is turning those over. We've been told by their top lab directors that all of that testing will be done in August. In the meantime, we're receiving those at about 3 per day. And we know that we will be having additional investigations, 650, that'll be hitting our investigators for further investigation, for a total 1,107 active investigations in the future. So we have a lot of more work to do.
This is a phenomenon we've never had in law enforcement before. All of a sudden, they're handing you a whole batch of, here are the guys that hit on these rapes. Now, even if it's a stranger rape, and many of them are, where the woman is getting off the bus coming home from work and she's dragged into an abandoned building, we still have to go through a long process legally before we charge an individual. We have to make sure it isn't, the DNA hit isn't coming back to a consensual partner. We have to legally confront, and it's better for the case to also to confront the individual. We have to track the individual down. Like this fellow I described, Mr. Daniel, we arrested last week. Luckily, he was on parole. He had a reason to be here, although he gave false addresses. We could track him down or arrest him at his parole report. A lot of these guys just float. If they're not on parole, they float. They live a nomadic lifestyle. They're very difficult to find. They leave the state. They leave the county. If they're in the county, their address changes continually, and they're not friendly to law enforcement or other efforts. They have warrants. They don't pay their various support bills and other things they have reason to stay elusive.
Is that all, Mr. Ms. Conwell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just trying to understand, to the prosecutor, you stated that the Attorney General, it comes from Mike DeWine.
The BCI,
The
Bureau of Criminal
BCIs.
Investigation.
Okay. And so then they send those reports out all across the state, and each county has their own.
Well, we're getting about half. I would say roughly half the reports come to us. Half the rape kits are from
But
Cleveland.
are they Cuyahoga County?
They're all Cleveland. All
They're all
these rapes are virtually, with very rare exception, out of Cleveland. A couple out of East Cleveland. Everything's coming from Cleveland.
And so what is our number in relation compared to the BCIs going
Well,
across the rest of the state?
BCI, DeWine closed down a whole lab and dedicated it to do nothing. He is an old prosecutor. He recognized the importance of this. He dedicated the entire Richfield lab to do nothing but DNA. His rate is much faster than we anticipated, and he is pumping them out, and we want to keep up. It's like running Ford Motor Company. If the one part that makes the car, and he's putting out the cars, and we're running the engine plant, we're behind on engines. We need to produce our engines faster to put them in the cars so they can sell the cars. We need to do our end of it so we can catch this individual with the evidence and prosecute him.
And I'm just wondering, because as long as this takes, so I'm assuming that 528 suspects, that doesn't necessarily currently just for 2014, that can go back to other years.
Well,
because of
they
the
range
victims.
from 1993 to 2000.
Okay.
Most of, we're done with most of 93, 94, so they're late 90s. We're not even in, we're going to go backwards now once we build a cushion. We didn't want to lose cases. Our highest priority is statute of limitations, 20 years. If we don't begin the prosecution within 20 years, the guy can write a book about it. We can't prosecute him. There's nothing we can do. So we had to get those cases, and some we made by day or days. And so those are still our highest priority. Then next we have to evaluate by danger or lethality and go with those first. And we're not even into the current ones. So as we build a cushion, we're trying to start backwards. So we're up to about 2,000 covered. We're going to go back from 2010 backwards. We're at 2009 and meet in the middle. Our theory is that the rape kits and rapists, most recent, are the most likely to still be out there and the most dangerous. Some of these serial rapists, although, have been operating in their 40s and 50s in age range.
And could you expound on that? I've never heard that term, serial rapist, because I thought a rapist.
Well, a serial rapist is one who commits more than one rape, and of course, but our idea of a serial rapist is one who commits many rapes. It's a hobby. They're hobbyists, so to speak. This is their form of entertainment. This is their thrill in torturing and attacking women.
Not specifically just a hit or miss guy like the guy you were just talking about. Would he be considered a serial?
He's a serial rapist because we know he did the Warren Road and the other one, 4 days apart. We know he did the 2000 rape. We know he's had a long career in criminal career, although not sexually related as other offenses. We believe we're conducting further investigation on him. We believe we will uncover other rapes as these rape kits are processed. He's very careful about transferring DNA, but even with his care, we think we will obtain other old rapes on him and in the investigation as it goes on. Some of these guys are good. I've prosecuted people good for 50 rapes in the past.
Under the definition, I guess a rapist is a serial rapist, because I don't really know a rapist that just rapes one time.
That's common sense. That's good thinking. They are, you know, you sometimes have the incestual rapist or something, or the bad luck rapist who gets caught on his first time, but most likely, most criminals aren't caught on their first offense unless the police are very lucky or the victim's very lucky, or there's a lot more serial rapists, the studies show, than are arrested.
So the funding that you're requesting for us to consider is specifically for just the examination or the investigation of the...
Just for the follow-up investigation to the BCI lab hit, they're telling us that
When
the
you
rape
say
kit,
follow-up, okay.
the rape kit comes back to Mr. X, and then we have to say, is Mr. X the right guy? It's a very strong bit of evidence, but we have to prove that that's him, and we have to do a lot of elimination and procedures, and it takes a lot of people. It's about 43 hours average work between our different officers to obtain that indictment. And of course, a lot more work after that with the prosecutor to obtain a conviction.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Greenspan.
Great, thank you. When you originally submitted the budget, obviously this was not included, but you had a unit that was. What was the original budget dollar amount for this this activity?
Introduce yourself.
Yeah, you're right. We've spent,
Introduce yourself.
I'm sorry, Marvin Davies, fiscal manager. This was not included in the original 2014 budget. We do have a team of investigators, and we were here before about a team of prosecutors, and that budget was about $300,000. We were asking for additional for this team of prosecutors and investigators.
And a victim advocate.
Yeah, no, I see. Well, I see in the document it was the new ask is for basically $600,000 for the 8 and 1. I guess and the reason for the additional ask is because we're getting more cases coming out of the AG's office.
This is more successful than we anticipated.
Okay. So I'm looking to see, so the $600,000 will go towards 8 investigators and 1 witness victim advocate. So I was just looking at some of the statistics on the side. Are we saying that we're going to go from 12 to 20 as far as the number of investigators?
Correct.
But our caseload, our average investigations completed per month with those 8 new investigators is going to go up by 68%, effectively from 38 to 64.
That's correct. We're looking at the same percentage over more investigators that we're experiencing currently.
The one thing that is just interesting in looking at, once again, looking at those statistics, is the average caseload per investigator doesn't go down dramatically. Is that because, I'm going to answer my own question, but is that because as the increased caseload is coming from the AG's office, if you didn't hire these 8, that the 86 that the current investigators had would be significantly higher?
The water keeps coming over
Right.
the waterfall, and we're there with the bucket. So you've got it exactly, and we're just working as fast as we can. We are also, without additional costs to the county, we're getting additional work out of the prosecutors. We've assigned major trial unit prosecutors to join this part-time unit. We're taking other room prosecutors and giving them additional work so that each investigator is going to have a prosecutor to work with. We're increasing the workload of the prosecutors and expect them to work weekends if necessary to keep up with it during this 2-year period.
Is there Is there any grant money? Is there any money available anywhere else where
We
we
are
may?
seeking money right now through the federal government. There's a $41 million proposed bill in Congress. It's going to be, I think, held up to the lame duck session. We're hearing from both sides of the aisle. They expect it to pass. It's largely for testing, though. We're trying to expand the bill because people are realizing from what we're doing, Memphis is doing, Detroit's doing, that this is the mother lode of criminal investigation as far as removing habitual violent offenders, particularly rapists, off the street. And it's money well spent. So both sides of the aisle seem to be enthusiastic about it. Nothing's getting passed apparently in Congress right now until November. And we're hoping for an expansion on this bill and we've talked to a number of people about it, and we're having a meeting in October with some of these prosecutors from other counties, particularly Memphis, Tennessee, and Detroit, Michigan, and Prosecutor Worthy's kind of been a national leader of it, and some associations, and to see what we can do working together to encourage Congress to spend more money in this regard.
And
We're optimistic.
Is there any state money that's, I mean, as a result of the AG's work in this area, which has been widely publicized? Obviously, we're not the only county that's seeing.
Well, we've approached some people downstate, and including Senator Patton, and they have been providing DeWine with additional money. DeWine spent $2 million up front. He spent money revamping the lab, moving personnel around. He's going to spend a couple million more on his testing, and so they've accommodated us in that regard. We don't know if there'll be other monies, but we're seeking it if we could get them.
And then just carrying this discussion further down the line and looking at the sheriff, but then also thinking about incarceration.
And by the way, the sheriff is a very active participant in this task force. He has detectives working with us. I've asked the sheriff for additional help. He's given us additional help. He's made the arrests. They've worked night and day on this case at 104th Street rape. They were an essential part of that investigation and follow up and you know, a very, very important part of it. And each one of these cases, it's just a great example of the corroboration we've been getting between the agencies, because there is nobody who wants a serial rapist on the street, and there isn't any criminal justice agency who doesn't appreciate the danger they pose.
Well, and that leads to the next phase of this this process. Obviously, there's been an alleged crime has been committed. The AG is running through BCI. They're passing it to you. The next, obviously, are the costs to the court system as well as to long-term incarceration. So this obviously goes beyond just the scope of what we're talking about.
These fellows are getting long-term incarcerations, and they are a cost of $30,000 or so a year, so they will have long-term costs. But it's cheaper than keeping them on the street.
I'm not advocating that at all.
Cause even bigger harm.
Yeah, I'm just looking at. I know the sheriff that our jail is over capacity, even beyond what's been the norm for a long time, and I'm sure some of that has to do with this.
It does,
Yeah.
and we are incarcerating people with this. There are some other reasons, efficiency reasons. That's part of our 2 o'clock meeting, and the sheriff has been breathing down my neck hard, I would say, to get his jail reduction down and our process through the court moving, and we're trying to accommodate him. He's made some good points. We could be more efficient and more effective, and we're trying to do it.
So this 600,000, Mr. Chair, if I can continue, the 600,000, is that just for 2004, for the rest of 2014? Or is this for 14, half, a partial 14 and all of 15?
Yeah, that's the annual cost.
This is the annual cost?
Yes.
So we would then be looking at, we're entering the 4th quarter, so only a quarter of this for 14, and then the full 600,000 for 15?
That's correct.
And it's a 2-year project. We anticipate this to be concluded at the 2nd year.
So the 600,000, then I'm confused. Is it the 2-year estimate?
It would be a 2-year estimate would be $1.2 million.
Well, it'd be shorter than that. Well, you're looking at a 2-year calendar year, not a fiscal year. Okay. I mean, this doesn't seem like it's something hard to get our arms around.
Our aim date and we're doing a lot of data, and we've put it in our Justice Matters, and we've been continually measuring our performance and trying to improve our performance on everything from investigations, length of investigation, hours put in the investigation, learning different, faster, best practice methods, and that's part of the reason we're having this meeting, to share best practices. But our present projected date with this grant and our additional monies would be February 16th, 17.
This would run through February of 16. I'm sorry. Could you repeat the last part of that?
February 16th, 2017.
Is when this project would, the funding would
Data
conclude?
completion. The whole project would be completed.
Okay.
In other words, we're going to have the 1,000+ criminals, rapists off the street. There's 4,000 kids. We're examining and we're investigating 4,000. We're going to have 1,000 indictments. Now, some of these will be John Does that we have not found yet, but we're looking for. And we're also looking at the John Does because if they're serial rapists, we're waiting for MOs to match to reappear. We're doing analysis, and we've begun work that'll help us identify these individuals even without DNA hits.
So if I'm looking at the calendar, then this project, these 8 and 1 would be hired and start working around February 16, 2015? Because if it ends in 16 and this is 2 years worth of funding, then we'd go February of 15 to February of 16, February 16 to February 17. Is that?
2 years from today?
Yeah. This will be a project that would be from, let's say, today through February 16, 2017, to be clear. This is could be all cases resolved through the investigation process by February 16, 2017. So a large portion of this ask is for the investigators that would do that work.
So then it's roughly a 2.5 year ask.
So that's correct.
So it's not 1.2, it's actually 1.5.
Yes.
I stand corrected. I misunderstood.
That's okay.
I apologize.
No, I just want to make sure we understand what we're talking about
We have
here.
another projection that puts it right out at 2 years, at 1.99 years or something. So I thought we were assuming from that was the inclusion.
Okay, and as it relates to your current budget and where you are, since we don't get current actual financial data, it's hard for us to make the analysis.
Sure.
Are you under, over budget on your current budget?
We're under our current budget.
Okay, is there money available in that current budget that can be used to offset some of this ask?
No.
And why is that? What, how much are you under for 2014?
Our current estimate at the end of the third quarter, best estimate would be 100, 150,000.
Okay, all right, so you don't have a lot of
But
capacity.
there's no salary whatsoever.
So you're at full, so your actual head count is at your budget levels?
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, we need to be moving along here. Mr. Germano first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Prosecutor, not to minimize this, but the fact that these are serial rapists, is it possible that as we're moving forward and more of these DNA samples are going to be verified, that we already have the person? So that this 4,000, because
Of the 4,000, we're going to already have the person in 25% of the cases, and 1,000 approximately of the cases. We have enough in there, we have enough in this tested so far that we can project that. So we're projecting 25%, and we're projecting 25% able to indict, and some we won't. Some, however, we will, just from the factual pattern, that we reevaluate the factual patterns, we will recognize serial rapists. For instance, one serial rapist, we give them nicknames. We called this fella the early morning rapist because he struck at such early hours. And we looked at other crimes that were taking place early in the morning, 4 and 5 in the morning, before 6 a.m. And those are unusual hours for rapists to attack. They usually attack in the early night or 2 a.m. or whatever. And so that made him somewhat unique, and he had other unique factors. Another one on the east side in a 1.5 mile radius after he would attack women as they got off the bus or were walking home and in the dark. He attacked much earlier in the night where people are still coming home from work or wherever they're going. And he would drag them in. He would attack them always by abandoned houses. This is another reason we're supporting knocking down these abandoned houses. He'd take them to the abandoned house, pre-planned, take them there, beat them up, rape them, and then he'd say, count down from 100 before you open your eyes, or count down from 50 or 100. We called him the countdown rapist. It's unusual. Now, are there other people who say countdown? Sure. But this guy, it made him unique because of his size, his characteristics, and his speech and mannerism and other factors that we could give him a name and know with confidence it's the same guy. We're going to make that even. Now that we're reanalyzing, we're only going to get 1,000 through the DNA, but we're going to get more by the analysis and MO signature crime study.
Okay, my final question, because I know we're running on time. Are these employees going to be set up as temporary, or when it comes February 17th, are you going to solve this bulge by attrition? What's the plan?
We've looked at both alternatives, and at the end of February 18th or 17th, we're going to lay them off. It seems to be the best. We might give them a 1099 contract option, but whatever is most cost effective, but we're going to make it clear to them that they're not permanent employees. And we're hiring, like we just hired an FBI agent with 30-odd years of experience, who's an good investigator, tracker. Some of these guys will work, and they're happy to put a career bonus onto their career, and they're into their field, and we don't have to do any training. We're getting people shovel ready. We're not taking young new people that haven't had any experience. These guys, day one, you give them the job, and they get out and they're on track.
Mr. Miller, then Ms. Simon.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make people aware that prior to the adoption of the 2014-15 budget, we had a hearing in Finance and Budget Committee where we reviewed requests from the prosecutor's office, and it included this area and a few others, and we gave the green light for there to be additional resources, and some was folded into the 2014-15 budget. So, I mean, obviously, what you're telling us here is that results have come in much faster than expected, and that we need more people in the investigative area, and that what we did in the 2014-15 budget was not enough. But I just don't want anyone to come away from this with the idea that we've been not responsive to the problem, because we've basically done what we've been asked to do.
I fully agree, and thank you for your past support and support here. We are very grateful, and we have a lot of very dedicated people on this project. This is like the most important project they've ever worked on in their lives, and they've never seen success come at this rate in arresting rapists, and we appreciate the opportunity to do it. We think Cleveland's going to be, and Cuyahoga County is going to be a safer place because of it, and we think these individuals are one-man crime waves, many of them, and they are engaged in all types of criminal activities, and we expect victimization to decrease and the crime rate actually to be impacted by 1,000 prosecutions. And we expect to send a message to the criminal element that you can run but you can't hide. And we expect to send a message to the law-abiding community that we care, and we're going to track these people down who attack you. And we've had the cooperation of Rape Crisis and the other advocacy agencies, and we're building confidence with rape victims. We're getting more of them to come forward, and those are our goals. And they've been very bravely doing so. And the unmentioned here, but the real heroes are these women who have been attacked, who come forward, withstand all the public embarrassment, go on trial, and stand up to these guys and put them away. Not that it gives them particular satisfaction, but It gives them some, and they don't have to look over their shoulder, because the rape victim's always looking over their shoulder, wondering, is this guy still out there? Is he going to attack me again? But they're doing it largely to protect other women. So it's very heroic that they withstand a lot of trial themselves. You know, it's a lot of pressure on them, and they are the real heroes in this. The policemen, they have guns. Nobody's going to bother them. They are going to react very strongly to anybody who does. But these women are vulnerable, and they are our heroes.
Ms. Simon.
Just quickly, thank you. This is a program I fully support, and I appreciate everything you guys have done to make this happen. It's horrific, it's disgusting, and I'm not sure that this will prevent, a continuation of this volume, coming down the pike. I hope some point we can identify the source and the sociological component or even biological component that drives these men. And so I'm hoping but I just want to say thank you. I support this. And, time's of the essence. These people are going to get away. So I'm hoping with these investigators, we can not only make us safer, but also other communities that, I'm sure with technology you can track them and we can make.
We have had one fellow was committing rapes in Hamilton County. We had a fellow who murdered in Akron, in Summit County, and they travel.
Like wolves.
Thank you.
Mr.
Counsel.
Greenspan for a 10-second question.
Yeah, I don't
Yes,
see
sir.
where we have legislation before us to vote on this. So,
We do not have legislation, but I think with the proper avenue, if I'm hearing the committee clearly, is that they seem to be comfortable with this moving forward, is that I would turn you over to the good hands of Mr. McAleer in the back, who will walk you over to finance and work out the best avenue in which to get the money appropriated for your hires. And I would anticipate that not being more than a week. Trevor, from our side? And the reason I say our side is I know there's more involved here. Cleveland's got a stake in this, BCI.
They do.
I would anticipate going forward, we're going to have real discussions with them. Whatever percentage that they're in right now should come off of what we're providing right now. So I don't know about BCI, but certainly Cleveland has as much in this as we do in the county. So I would expect that within the next year that we would be talking to Cleveland about the shared cost of this. This is not just the county's cost. This is Cleveland's cost too. And all too often, we pick it all up. Those days are over. So we'll front it, we'll finance it, but we're going to go after our share also. It's only fair to everybody. And I don't know what the percentage is, and I'll leave that to those that are better skilled at that with your finance guy and our finance people, and we'll figure that out, and we'll present Cleveland with the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay,
And
so
counsel,
Trevor,
we appreciate it.
yeah,
if you would take them, I know they have to get out of here. And Trevor, if you could let me know tomorrow the process in which you're going to do this and what is recommended through finance.
yeah, Mr. Chair, and I'd also like to recommend that we use the current protocol that council adopted by ordinance for request of additional money. It's outlined in the ordinance.
We can do that, but I just want to get them on the road.
Yeah. No, not now. I'm saying as part of the presentation back
Right.
to us.
Right. Is that clear, Trevor? Do you so if you would please take care of that and come back and let us know. You don't necessarily have to let us know in a meeting. We can do that upstairs. Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor.
Thank you very much.
Sheriff? Got a couple for you. We got the jail kitchen. Let's start off with the easy thing, and that is we up and running, and we're all happy about that. And we have the self-defense, and then we'll get to the more difficult one, the Euclid Jail.
Okay. Chairman to council, first of all, the jail kitchen, a month and a half ago, we opened it up. It's running efficiently, it's running smoothly. We don't use as many trustees anymore. The food is pre-prepared in the kitchen because it's state-of-the-art. It's brought up to the floors and delivered actually by the COs. We worked out with the unions and everything, so no problems there. It's more cost-effective because we're not just scooping food out like we used to. It's all prepared and put on pre-made trays. So far, so good. It's running effectively and smoothly, and I have not heard, as I'm standing here, anything that has delayed it any further. It's up and operating.
Great. We thank you. We know that was a long road of sorrows, eh, Ms. Thielen?
I wanted to, I inherited the project, but, Public Works did a tremendous job. Ginger Cox and Bonnie T1, so thank you.
Some interesting troubles when you go digging in Cleveland.
Yes. We didn't know we had a lake underneath the Justice Center. So, the next thing I'd like to address is the self-defense classes. We started this initiative probably about 7-8 months ago. Hundreds of men and women, mainly women, have gone to our classes. We've named it Strategies Against Violent Encounters. We're not teaching someone to be a karate expert. We're teaching them to get out of violent encounters. We have a great staff. It's not specifically what they do. Some of them are on the SWAT team, some are in different parts of the sheriff's office. But when requested, we set it up, and there's usually 6 to 7 instructors that go out and train. It's 45 minutes of mental training, and then about an hour and 15 minutes of actual hands-on that we show the participants different moves to get out of a violent encounter. So it's been very well received throughout the county. We've been east side, west side, and we've done many, I know within the county itself, we've done county employees that actually go out to houses, HHS and stuff, so it's been very successful so far.
All right, I put out a memo last week to my colleagues encouraging them if, within their districts, if they have interested parties to contact you.
Okay.
Thank you. Euclid Jail. Where are we at?
Euclid Jail. Okay. Again, a project that I inherited. The project ran into unforeseen construction delays. We were supposed to take over the facility in July. With my pushing, they moved it back to August. We thought we might be closer to opening up full-time. Presently, we have 17 employees out there that have been there since August 1st. Full complement is 22, so we will not be at full complement until we introduce all the county prisoners that will be out there. Presently, on average daily is 11 Euclid prisoners. A week and a half ago, we started introducing weekenders, we call them, that come that have to do jail time in our facility over here. The healthiest ones we just have report to Euclid. So on the weekends, we have 25 out there. By next week, we're going to be bringing out 20 of our inmates here. The following week, working all the way up to November 1st, we should be at full complement, the 80 prisoners out there.
Okay. Questions? Mr. Greenspan.
Thank you. So the original expectation is that we would be operational by August 1st?
The original was July 1st.
July 1st.
The person that was handling the negotiations at that time is no longer with the county, but at that time, I asked her to push it back because it wasn't functioning and it wasn't fair for us to put bodies out there to work.
And the expectation was on July 1 that we would, how many, I don't recall, I know Euclid gets 20.
Correct.
As part of the package, and then how many, what do we have, 60? What was the
We
number?
have 60, correct.
So
Euclid's average has been 11, so.
Okay, but we have to reserve them 20.
Correct, but day-to-day basis, if they only have 11, then we can
move more.
That's the average, correct.
So it was our original expectation that on July 1, we would have 60 inmates?
That's correct.
And we do not expect to have 60 full-time now till November 1?
That's correct.
And in between then, you just started September 1st-ish with weekenders?
Correct.
And a small number?
Correct.
And you're ramping that up. When do you, so now when do you expect to, I'm sorry, you did say shortly you expect to start moving more, did you say 15?
Correct. Next week, we'll put 20 out there from our facility.
Okay. And if I recall the business model, I use that term loosely, if I recall the business model, the compensation for the 17 to 22 COs or staff was coming out of your board and care budget.
That's correct.
These, and I'm assuming that these 17 to 22 people, 17 now to 22 at full complement, are either new hires or transfers to which you had to backfill their hiring?
That's correct. Our optimum staff is 540, plus this project would have been 566.
Okay. So effectively, because we're operating a facility with no inmates, set aside Euclid, if you look at it from a dollar and cents perspective, we're effectively operating in a loss scenario.
That's correct.
Do we know what that number is?
I would have to ask my fiscal manager to come up, if that's okay.
Good afternoon, council members. Donna Cleo, Sheriff's Fiscal Manager. So the loss that I'm showing right now is for the first 3 months, having staffed it for the first 3 months and not having any inmates out there, I'm showing a loss of about $300,000. Now, according to my calculations, we're going to, that's for August, September, and October. That's about $100,000 a month it's costing us to staff it. If we do start moving inmates out there, say 20 of them this week, and then 20 more in mid-October, which the plan is. And if we take them out of prisoner boarding care and move them in there, that's going to save us $49,000 to $50,000. So I would say in the first 3 months, if that happens, it'll be about $250,000 loss. If that's making sense. Okay.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And where are we on the CapEx? I know we had a $250,000, or was it 200? What was 600,000? $600,000 that Euclid was going to reimburse us over a period of time to do repairs to the facility. Where are we in relation to the CapEx side?
Wait, at 600,000, was that was, I thought it's 400,000 a year, except this year for operations.
No, I'm talking about in the contract, I remember that Euclid was going to reimburse us. We were going to outlay money to upgrade the jail, and then Euclid was going to reimburse us it was $200,000 a year over 3 years.
I thought it was 120,000 a year over 3 years.
Ms. Chairman of the Councilman, it is. Donna, you're correct. It's $120,000. First invoice to Euclid happens in January of 15. They get the first invoice for that.
So what's the total amount then of the capital improvement allowance?
600,000.
600. Oh, I'm sorry. It was 120 over 5 years then, wasn't it?
Correct.
Okay. And so the $600,000, how much of that how much has been spent to upgrade this jail?
The cost of the upgrades to capital, that I do not know. I do not know the cost of that.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. Roughly somewhere around, I think, about $500,000 to date. We still have some additional work to do. That's somewhere around $100,000 left still.
So the expectation is that we will stay within that $600,000?
That is correct.
And when are the final renovations expected to be completed?
The next level of renovations that we're working with Public Works on are related, both some internal items that are being completed internally on the cell doors themselves that'll be done through the Public Works folks, and then there's a bid that's coming out shortly related to some plumbing work that needs to happen. But we expect, I think, all of it to be completed sometime in the early November, I think, at the latest.
And once again, that'll all be done within the $600,000 total allowance?
That's correct. We expect there to be a little bit of change after those two still.
Okay.
For some additional work, but right now we're focusing really on that, getting those two items done.
Okay, so it appears the $600,000 is going to be met. We're over budget by $250,000 so far projected, realized and projected on the board and care. Are there any other costs that I'm missing as far as trying to understand this project?
Well, except for the discretionary funds, we spend about $100,000 on a visa.
Okay. Chair to Councilman, we've used money out of discretionary funds. That's a fund that we use for different supplies that we needed out there.
And how much was used?
So far, $96,000.
$96,000.
And this was, I don't recall ever hearing this. So this is in addition to whatever budget was presented to us.
Correct.
That's correct.
So if I
For
take.
IT purposes and stuff.
Right, okay. So if we add the 96 to the 250, then we're really looking at closer to $340,000 actual loss to date. And that assumes that we get that the projected savings of $50,000 is realized. If not, we could really be looking at another $50,000 on top of it. So we're somewhere between $340,000 and $390,000 of increased cash outflow for this project than was originally contemplated. That's correct. I guess to Mr. Cologne, is there an opportunity somewhere for us to recoup this $340,000, or is this just money that was not realized when this project was presented?
Sure, I think what you said with respect to the prisoner board and care piece, I think that's accurate. I think that prisoner board and care would have, you would have seen a significant savings had we opened or been in a position to fully occupy 60 to 80 beds. We would have seen truly a savings of about $300,000 if prisoner board and care. But as far as recouping, there's no provision, at least not from the city of Euclid, to recoup those additional dollars.
So whose budget does this loss come out of? Does this come out of the sheriff's budget?
Prisoner board and care.
All right, I'll come back with more questions.
Well, a made whole clause with Euclid would have made a heck of a lot of sense, huh? So I guess you should answer Mr. Greenspan's question a little bit better if you can. Where's this money coming from?
Mr. Chairman, the money is coming from a request that I believe have already submitted, and that will come towards the council's way. We're asking for an increase in prisoner board and care.
What's your thought on that, Sheriff?
Presently, I don't believe I have any other choice but to request that.
So then, from our perspective, then this is coming out of reserves. Because there's nowhere else. You're out of money in prisoner board and care. Otherwise, you wouldn't be, meaning not you're out of money, but your projected usage is out of money, so.
Correct. We reached out to OBM, but because the bodies are out there already, we couldn't transfer money back, or appropriate money back from prisoner board and care, because that money that we used for the Euclid project is being used for the Euclid project.
And we are out of money in Prison Board of Care. We currently have $160,000 in invoices going NSF right now for monies we owe other cities. And that's through the month of August. We are projecting another $200,000 to hit for the month of September and another $200,000 for the month of October. Now the November and December invoices won't hit till next year. But then that's probably another discussion, what we're gonna do with the Prisoner Board and Care budget next year, because it was already anticipated it would be funding the Euclid project. So I don't know how that's gonna play out. But yeah, we're out of money in Prisoner Board and Care, correct?
What's our out provision with the city of Euclid?
I'm not aware. I think it's a couple years, Roberto.
Mr. Chairman, there is a provision in there. It's not as exhaustive as Cleveland's, but I can get that to you as soon as I get to the office. It may be a year or less. I can look at that. I can get that answer pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think we're gonna need that. Mr. Miller.
Mr. Chairman, to the sheriff or the financial person, am I correct that the primary reason for the $300,000 loss on staff, of which $50,000 might be recouped, that the primary reason for that is that that we started to staff the facility before it was fully ready to go? And if so, why did we do that? Why did we just say, well, we're going to wait until we have full capability, and then we're going to staff it at that time, and not incur staffing costs for a facility that's not really able to operate at full capacity?
Chairman, Councilman Miller, that was my question on July 1st. We were able to push it back till August 1st, and then I was instructed that per the contract, we had to at least start paying for Euclid's prisoners, but there was no out clause at the front end to that to push it back if there was construction delays. So that's why we staffed it.
Okay. Mr. Chair. So this goes back to the discussion on the Cleveland Jail with us challenging the startup time period of 9 months and who pays for those costs. I believe the similar questions were asked on the Euclid Jail project when the contract was negotiated. But it appears that there's been a breakdown in the operational strategy of implementing this jail. I'm not, like I said, the sheriff's been very clear and he inherited this. But clearly, to Mr. Miller's point, we should not have been staffing, especially, this was such a unique environment. We could have taken the 7 to 11, whatever, the Euclid jail prisoners and put them in our jail down here while we built up this jail, while we renovated the Euclid jail, and then taken the Euclid prisoners and 60 full county prisoners and transferred them all at a certain time with the staff, and we wouldn't be in this situation. Or if we would, it would have been maybe a 2-week time period of transitioning COs to understand the new facility and how it would operate. The frustration you're sensing in a much more muted fashion than I have in the past is because this doesn't surprise me. But now we're stuck with it. And we're stuck with it, and the taxpayers are paying at least $250 million. I would even say $340,000 when you factor in this IT issue that we just heard about for the first time. For, candidly, poor management on the administration in being able to execute this integration. Can't be much more clear than that. I guess I have a question for Mr. Colon. I don't recall seeing IT in the Cleveland Jail project. How much might that cost that's not included in the current budget?
Mr. Chairman of the Councilman, in the Cleveland budget, there is IT. There's $75,000 a year.
So Euclid, which is 80 cells, is 96, and you're projecting 300 plus to be less than that?
Can you repeat the question again?
Sure. The Euclid Jail is roughly 80 inmates. And,
Okay.
and you're saying that us integrating in another 300 is going to cost less, roughly 25% less?
Sure. In the Euclid scenario, you're outfitting an entire facility brand new over to the county, so they needed a bunch of new equipment in order to do that. In the Cleveland scenario, the only facility that we are off, because it calls for most of the inmates to be outsourced, the only costs for IT internally are those related to a couple PCs that we need to install in the current CPU. But the current CPU is already wired and cabled, and we already use a records management system and things of that nature. So it's a less hardware.
So the 120, all right, I'm going off memory here, but the 120, the facilities that we're inheriting from Cleveland, they're not wired for any, they don't have any of this equipment, any of our equipment in there yet, do they? 120 holding? The 120 holding.
Mr. Chairman, I think 120 does, CPU does not. CPU's only, it is cabled, which was, Euclid wasn't cabled, we had to cable that, but it is cabled. The computers in 120 holding, actually, those belong to the city of Cleveland. We would have to bring in our own.
Okay. I don't mean to sound skeptical, but, and I'm not from Missouri, but you'll have to show me this in a fashion that I have confidence that this will be done correctly. So all this talk about the county doing stuff on time and under budget seems to be flying out the window lately, and this is a clear example of it. And the Cleveland Jail project, without that make-whole provision, I can't support. The history here isn't demonstrating that the county has the ability to do this effectively without a provision that the chairman is strongly urging. So,
Well, to make things a little bit clearer, I think what we need to do is pull the testimony that we had about Euclid, go through it, see what exactly was said by who, and try and get through this, because we were kind of sold a bill of goods on this thing. Mr. Germano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, from my recollection, we got into this because there was a substantial amount of money that Euclid was going to be saving for us getting into this. And I don't recall what that number was. Mr. Cologne, how much is the city of Euclid saving per year by us going forward?
Sure. Most of the savings, Mr. Chairman and the councilman, were in future expenditures on the city of Euclid. They, with this agreement alone, they're saving about $300,000 to $400,000 a year. However, they did a significant amount of savings of about $1 million prior to this, as they started closing down the jail and outsourcing to Lake County. However, had this project not happened, they would have seen additional increased cost over time because they were going to build a new facility. So they would have had capital repayment for that facility over time. So although their initial day one savings was about $400,000 or so, it would have been a higher number. It really is a higher number over time.
And this was initiated by Euclid coming to us. I mean, we didn't go to Euclid and volunteer to solve their problems.
Correct. It was initiated. We were approached by Euclid. However, they knew that at least regionalizing jails was something that we were going to explore in the future. So, but they initially it was them approaching us.
Okay. So I guess my next question is to the law department. In insurance terms, unjust betterment or enrichment is collectible or at least can be factored. And I don't see why Cuyahoga County should be eating this fully. Isn't there a possibility we could go back to Euclid and saying that these were not contemplated and we were doing things to benefit Euclid? Why should the taxpayers of Cuyahoga County, Euclid is taxpayers of Cuyahoga County, but the rest of the county have to pay for this? They've had the enrichment. Is it possible we could go back and get some type of settlement from Euclid?
Through the chair, I would be hesitant to speak to that without having the agreement. I was not the one who negotiated that agreement, so I'd have to look at and see the terms, so I can look into that.
Mr. Chair, I just, common sense says, you know, we are cooperating, we're trying to do something to benefit. I've actually spoken at community meetings saying that we're getting in the jail business to help the cities and so on and so forth, but we shouldn't be at the, well, we believe in collaboration, but it's got to be fair. We just can't start underwriting cities' problems, and especially in jails. We're talking about expanding this jail throughout the county. So I think we should be looking at that contract, and even if the contract doesn't address it, I think we're going to be entitled to some remedy because they are getting unjust enrichment.
I think we've gone around and around on this. I think what we should do is we'll pull the testimony on the Euclid Jail from when the mayor came in. And this started out bad. And I'll tell you why it started out bad. It started out bad because I got a call from the sister-in-law of the mayor of Euclid saying, hey, he's telling his council this is a go. I had no idea what he's talking about. And told her he better call me because I have no idea what this man's talking about. And so things were happening behind the scenes before council was ever brought in on this or anybody else that I know of. So it started out bad. So let's get the testimony, see who said what. We'll have a meeting regardless of the testimony on who said what with Euclid about a reimbursement. Or if it's a year notification on the clause, we eat what we eat and we'll walk away and they can spend $1 million+ fixing up their jail and doing it themselves. I mean, that's just the way it is nowadays. I mean, you know, we're handed one thing and we're given another. And it just doesn't make any sense. And without that made whole clause with Cleveland, Mr. Greenspan's right, we'd pretty much be in the same boat. which I kind of suspect is why it's not back here. Because it was so important and had to be done so quickly, and here we sit a couple weeks later and it's nowhere to be seen. And they're not calling us on that. So let's pull the testimony, let's see where we're at. Janine, let's prepare a letter to the mayor of Euclid. We want to have a discussion about this. I would suggest the president of the council and somebody from the administration, preferably the law director, would start talking about reimbursement to the county, or we'll do what we have to do. You know, we want to be cooperative, we want to be helpful, but you know, we're only going to go so far. It just amazes me how people just seem to think we just have money. And when we have money available, they think it's their money, and that we can't put restrictions on it, and that we're just going to eat this. And in the past, probably happened. The county probably ate a lot of stuff, and we're not going to do it anymore. So let's do that. Let's be fair to Euclid. Let's see what the testimony was. And we'll have had that meeting within a week, as long as everybody's schedules are okay with that. I'm sure on our side they will be. And we'll see how that comes out. Fair enough? I'll bring you back to the next meeting. We'll have this situation addressed one way or the other. Mr. Miller?
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate and support the general direction you're going in, because I'm concerned about it too. But I also have to wonder how the fact that we can't do construction on time is Euclid's problem. You know, I'm not sure what responsibility they have for that.
Well, was the I forget now. Was the IT involved in that contract with Euclid?
I'm not sure I understand the question, Mr. Chairman.
You said there was a cost on IT in the Euclid Jail. Was that in the contract?
No, the contract didn't get very specific on, it was just a contract with the lease of the
Okay,
jail, so I
Mr.
don't think it
Miller,
was.
There's your answer. Whoever wrote this contract wasn't specific and didn't have a made whole clause, which I think is now going to become the most popular thing in legislation in Cuyahoga County's history. So let's do that. I don't want to drag anybody through the mud. There might not have been any testimony about this. Maybe we went into this blind, and it's our problem for the short term, but in the long term, this will not be our problem.
Mr. Chair, just to add a comment on here, I just ran a number. If we were to just absorb 20 inmates from Euclid's jail into our jail at $55 each and comp them that, it would only cost us $401,000 a year. Just to throw that out there. We're going to spend $600 to get reimbursed from Euclid, plus, you know, other costs. It would have been less for us to absorb them into our current jail at $55 a day, which is our bill rate to Euclid, right? 55, than for us to do this project altogether.
Mr. Miller.
We hate to see this, but it appears that the problem we have here is basically a transitional problem, that we are not able to handle this transition effectively in a cost-effective manner. And the question I have is whether we're confident that this agreement will operate on a break-even or better basis for Cuyahoga County on an ongoing operating basis.
Once we fill these 60 beds, you're talking about $100,000 a year we would save in prisoner board and care. This jail, according to my calculations, so that's about 1.2 million a year. According to my calculations, to operate this jail annually is going to be about 1.7. That's where I'm at right now with what it's going to cost us in next year to run the jail, about 1.7. So I don't know about a break even.
So are you saying Are you saying, in addition to the 390,000 that we talked about, that we're going to lose $500,000 a year on an operating basis annually, which is a much bigger concern?
That's a projection. I guess we have to see, again, there's no getting around the fact that we pay, that the 60 inmates times $55 per day times 30 days is $100,000. And then 12 months, so that's 1.2 million. So that's pretty much it. That's what we would pull out of prisoner boarding care and put into the Euclid Jail. I'm trying to project the best I can what the Euclid Jail is going to cost us to run. Now, I can tell you in salaries, once we're at full staff, in salaries, it's going to cost us 1.6. That's staffing it. So, I'm trying to. I don't foresee other savings in the Euclid Jail. If there is, I'm missing it, because the only savings I'm seeing in the Euclid Jail is what we're going to save in prisoner boarding care. I can't find any other savings. Now, again, if we save that, but Euclid pays us the $400,000 a year they're going to pay us for operations, now you're at a break even. So if we save, say, at 1.2 and they give us $400,000 a year for operations, we're at the 1.6. That's those staffing. Now you have the cost of the inmate, which I'm estimating to be a couple $100,000 a year out in Euclid. Again, the staffing numbers I know are lock solid, because the staffing is what it is. But it's going to cost us a couple $100,000 a year. So yeah, I am predicting a loss. And again, there was another thought in my mind, but I just lost it. But so I am predicting we are going to have somewhat of a loss. And also keep in mind, and I'm not sure, but the $400,000 we get a year from Euclid, if I'm not mistaken, that's only 5 years. I'm thinking, is that correct? That's 5 years? Okay, so that's 5 years. So then in the 6th year, then we are going to probably be sustaining an even bigger loss at that time. Correct? Yes.
So, Mr. Chair, if I can ask a question, I'm going to look at you because I've looked at Mr. Colon. He's not going to like my facial expression, but we were told this was going to break even.
Well,
All right, I'll look at Mr. Colon.
I'm
We were told
find
this was going to break even. This is good drama, right? Right, Mr. Boyle? This is good drama. Mr. Colon, we were told we were going to break even. Now we're here and we're going to lose $500,000 a year. Explain yourself.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. I think if we can provide, and we'll be ready to provide at the next meeting. I think right now what Donna is at least saying, and I'd like some time to really sit down with her, but right now we're looking at, the intent was that the operations would cost us about $1.7 million. We anticipate having a budget of $1.7 million. That's what we presented to you. And I don't know that anything, that's still the plan that we have moving forward. $1.7 million is what we said it would cost. 1.7 million in revenue is what we presented to you at the time that this was passed for 2015. But we will go ahead and we'll revisit it both on the transition side and over a 12-month period. Again, knowing everything that we know, and we'll be everything that we know today that's new, we'll go ahead and make sure that we get you something for the next conversation, Mr. Chairman.
Well, let's do that. Let's find out what everybody said. I seem to remember a break even being a strong selling point to this. At our next meeting, we'll rehash this. Hopefully, we'll have had that meeting between the law department, the council president, maybe even Mr. Fitzgerald at this point in time, and Mr. Colon, because if there is going to be a problem and loss going forward, we're going to have to talk about a made whole clause being added to this, or we're going to have to give notice on our year and get out of this. And I don't see anybody really wanting to do that, but we certainly don't want to lose any money. So let's take a week, well 2 weeks before our next meeting. But we'll take a week for that to happen, and hopefully at the next meeting we will have a solution to what seems to be a very big problem. Okay, is everybody okay with that? Mr. Greenspan, you okay with that?
Yeah,
And if you want to be part of that meeting, I would
Yeah.
highly recommend that you be there. I'll certainly try to be there if that's what the council president
I would
wishes.
appreciate that. In furthering the thought of the make whole provision, and since my confidence was not strong with things coming out of this area of the county, I want to ensure that in the CCOMS relationships that we enter into with these various municipalities, that we have a make-whole provision included in those agreements as well.
Well, like I said, going forward, I think this is gonna be the new wave of things to come. Because we are, in many cases, we're stepping into unknown waters, and we've gotta protect ourselves. We can't just go for a headline. We've gotta go for our wallet and make sure we're not getting any thinner there. So let's get this thing fixed, one way or the other. We'll be in contact with you, Sheriff. We'll see how it goes, okay?
Okay.
Is that all right with everybody? Okay. Fire damper. Who said to me before this it would be quick? Was that you, Mr. Dever? So so where are we at? We're at, we've been doing our inspections, but we haven't been doing the fixes for the most part, so we have somewhat of a solution. You have some sort of a solution for us?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Michael Dever, Maintenance Administrator for Department of Public Works, and thanks for having me back again today. I do have a handout for you, Mr. Chairman, of an update on how the project is moving forward, and I'll hand that to you now. Yes, Mr. Chairman, the project has been underway with our temporary staffing level. We brought in 4 temporary staff to assist in this project, and it's been moving along fairly well, I feel. When we started the project, we were under the assumption, we estimated that there was just over 1,669 dampers in our county facilities. And as the project has gone along, that number has now grown to roughly 2,260 dampers that we've identified. We've been inspecting as we've been going along, and we've been correcting deficiencies on those dampers up to the direction that I've given my personnel is to, if we can get a damper corrected within a certain amount of time. 2 hours was a rough time frame that we put to it for them to correct any deficiencies, that they were to proceed as they were doing the inspection. We've uncovered a number of dampers that are broken, and we have now developed a request for proposal that has been drafted, and we're about to submit it to the Deputy Chief for approval to put out for bid, is to replace some dampers within the old courthouse, which we've noticed our largest deficiency. Roughly 105 dampers in the old courthouse need to be replaced, and it's a difficult situation. So we as we've gone through this process, we realized that yes, an RFP is the right direction to get these replaced. So we have this proposal put together. As soon as I get the Deputy Chief approval on it, we're anticipating to put that out to be advertised October 10th for a 2-week period. In turn, then we'll do a walkthrough with the prospective contractors that are registered with the county. I hope to have the bids closed before the end of October, and if we select a successful vendor, that we should have the approval to start date November 10th. Right now, I have a 120-day duration for them to complete that. I'm going to trim that down to a 90-day duration. So I intend to have those repairs in the old courthouse completed by the end of February. And as for the inspection, I'm going to continue forward inspecting the remainder of dampers. We are currently in Jail 1 right now, the corrections. It was built at the same time as the Justice Center in the early 70s or mid-70s. That is proving a problematic project. We've had tremendous cooperation from the Sheriff's Office and the corrections staff to be able to get into those secured areas. that project is going a little slower, but we have all staff on that right now, and I'm anticipating that we'll have that completed by the end of January. In 2015, then we are going to start the first inspection of the Juvenile Justice Center, which is coming up to its 4-year anniversary, and we're right on schedule for that.
Okay. Who's the deputy director that has to go over? Go through? Sorry.
It was Ken Surratt.
Who's he?
Ken Surratt, is it? Yes. He replaced Sharon Cole, who was the deputy chief for operations.
Okay. Could you get a copy of that RFP to Trevor in our office before it goes out? Or do you have it?
Sure, I have it, and I can get it forwarded to him if you'd like.
Okay, I appreciate that. And you anticipate getting this out when?
If I get the approval, so I'm expecting it to be advertised on the 10th of October, and it'll be a 2-week duration for the
Okay.
advertising, and then we're going to do a walkthrough with the respective bidders because they have to physically see what they're going to be getting into because we have some abatement issues within the old courthouse.
Okay. I want to make sure that we approve of this before it goes out, that we're comfortable with it. So if you can get just electronic mail to Trevor, that would be great.
Okay.
I don't think it'll be hard to go over and make sure that that's done right. Are there any questions for Mr. Dever on the second longest project in Cuyahoga County's history, other than the jail kitchen? The jail kitchen will always be our great pyramid, so. Okay, so that sounds, I'm comfortable with that. Does anybody have a problem going forward with the way in which this is? Okay, let's get that rolling, and thank you for being here again. And I look forward to a copy of that from Trevor. I'll review it, get it back to you as soon as I possibly can. And if you would tell Mr. Torok that until he gets that from us, do not move forward, okay? But he'll get that this week,
Understood.
okay?
All right, thank you.
Is there any miscellaneous business? Anyone? No? Other public comment?
No, Mr. Chair, no one has signed in.
Thank you.